Well, good afternoon and welcome to live coverage of race 2 here in Paul Ricard. We're in France for round 1 of the 2021 International GT Open. We've had our first races yesterday with GT Cup Open Europe also in action. They will be joining the International GT cars for this afternoon's race to make it an absolutely packed grid of GT cars. We're in France in Le Castellet, not too far from Marseille in the south of France. It's been a pretty grey day overall. Air temperature slightly up from this morning, up to 18 degrees now. Cars really struggling to get temperature into their tyres. 15 turns though await our drivers. 5.8 kilometres, 3.6 miles round this circuit, Paul Ricard. It's very flat here. We're 441 metres above sea level. And if you missed yesterday's race, well, it was all a bit crazy. Early safety car action after a huge crash involving Christian Klein on lap 1, then a further safety car to clear up one of the Lamborghinis which spun itself off the track. But after that we could get away properly, and it was the Bentley Continental GT3 run by Team Lazarus which won out with a sterling drive from Jordan Pepper and Ivan Peklin, winning ahead of the two Inception racing cars, both running McLarens. My name is Harry Benjamin. It's been a pleasure to guide you through all the action so far this weekend. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're in Le Castellet and Elliot is alongside me. 7 different car brands just in the International GT Open Series. Incredibly packed grid. We're actually down a couple of runs, I think, due to some heavy crashes in yesterday's race, but still, that is a full grid, and we're going to get some great action.
Yeah, but it's such a full grid that we actually need a second timing screen to see everyone who's been entered into this weekend. We've got the GT Cup Open Europe cars, the International GT Open cars. So not only are there overall honours in both series, there's class honours within that. So we've got the Pro class, the Pro-Am class and the Am class in International GT Open. Then GT Cup Open Europe, Pro-Am class and the Am class there as well. So lots to fight for today, all the way down the order.
Yeah, it's a grid packed full of former champions, reigning champions and young guns fighting their way to the top of one of the most competitive GT3 racing categories in Europe. So this is just the first stop on the calendar for us, where we go to Europe's top Grand Prix tracks throughout 2021. The International GT Open Series does kick off here in France, and then we travel to Spa, Hungary, Italy, Austria, and we finish off in Barcelona, all being well, in October. So lots to look forward to. Nearly 30 cars on today's grid. Your overall pole sitter is the Northern Irish racing driver of Adam Carroll. He went out in second qualifying this afternoon, where the second drivers went out. It was the first drivers who went out for yesterday's qualifying to set the grid for yesterday's race, so it's the turn of the other drivers today, and they will start the race as well. So it's Adam Carroll who leads the way for the Balfe Motorsport team, and then it will be Ollie Milroy in second. Both Pro-Am cars there, and both in overall first and second. Then it's the first of the Pro cars in third with Andy Suchek. This is one of the Inception racing cars, the number 7 of Brendan Irebe and Ollie Milroy. So that will be going to the very top of the grid in second. Inception had a great run yesterday, didn't they, with both cars getting onto the podium.
Yeah, it was a great run. Our commentary box was actually just above their pit box, so we got to see all of the action during the driver swaps as well. Pretty great racing between those two drivers, and I think you spoke to some of them after the race.
I did, yeah. Christian Klein was one of them in particular as well, just while we ride on board with him, involved in that huge crash with the number, with the Mercedes, I believe it was, a little further back in the pack. But he was not happy at all. It was with Dominic Schramel in the number 15 Twin Bush by Keith Vitesse, who just seemed to get it all wrong. Christian Klein called it an avoidable mistake, and ended up with the Mercedes driving over that black and gold McLaren. So that was Christian Klein's day ruined. He's hoping for a better run of it this afternoon. He'll get in the car in the middle of the race for the driver swap. But yeah, spoke to a couple, including Ollie Milroy, who does start on second. Really happy chap, Ollie. It's the first time I've actually met him, and he was just so easy to talk to. And he said, you know, it's always an issue when you catch your teammate with 2 laps to go. But he seemed to make do of it today, and he is in front of his teammate. That is your pole man, though, Adam Carroll. Spoke to him earlier today as well. He is going to be driving that car very wide indeed, because he's worried about this man behind him in the Bentley, Ivan Peklin, because they are fast on the straights, even though he's back in 4th. That was roughly where they were in yesterday's race as well, and it was Jordan Pepper who started there, and they were in the lead by but after the first safety car restart, and challenging for first right from the very beginning. There is your pro pole sitter, third overall, Andy Soucek. He took over from Al-Faisal Al-Zubair in yesterday's race midway through and managed to really drive that Lechner racing car up the pack, challenging for the podium and indeed getting on it as well. Mikel Beretta in 6th for Vincenzo Sospiri racing team, goes from 6th. And there is 5th, Yuki Nemoto in the number 19 Lamborghini. He was involved in lots of good little scraps yesterday's race. He'll be hoping to have a repeat of that. He sadly was one of the losers of that, but he'll be hoping to learn from that and make way today. There is that black and gold number 88 JP Motorsport car. Patrick Kaprinski will be starting that car, but it was Christian Klein who was involved in that big accident yesterday. They'll be hoping to make it through the first 3 corners safely this time around. Behind them is the number 11, or just in front, I should say, is the number 11, Marcus Pavarud in 7th for Renault Racing. Bit of a quiet race yesterday, actually, for the Honda NSX. There we go to the other Inception Racing car, a little bit further back. This time, Nick Moss starts that car from the number 72. Wound out on the podium yesterday. He'll be hoping for a repeat for that. Of course, Nick Moss, 2020 GTOpen, finishing 3rd overall, 4 wins, 6 podiums in the Pro-Am. Now this man and this team for AKM Motorsport, Jens Lieberhauser, the first of the AM cars in AM pole, had a really solid run yesterday, was really challenging the faster cars around him. And indeed, he is way ahead of the second AM car, which is all the way back in 13. So there's about 5 cars between the first 2 AM cars. So a really good job there from Jens Lieberhauser. That is the number 48 of Marcus Sattler for Winwood. They were right up there at the very start of the race, challenging for that win, the 2 Mercedes against the Bentley, but unfortunately the Mercedes seemed to fade away in the latter part of the race, struggling with tyre wear issues and just lacking a bit of general pace. But it was a tough race to keep up with yesterday. Now we've added in GT Cup cars. I don't know how we're going to do.
Yeah, and we're going to have quite likely lapped traffic in this race, which we had a little bit during the pit stop phase yesterday. Here's the highlights of yesterday's race. Yeah, and going on to lap 1.
Well, we wound out on board with Al-Faisal Al-Zubair to begin with, but have a look at the Bentley on the right, having a little look already for the lead, thinks better of it compared to this time last year. That second Mercedes had to run out wide, and there was the big incident between the number 14 and the 88, with Al-Faisal Al-Zubair having to sort of slam the brakes, but he still hits the car in front of him. They were both okay though and got away, and we did get the safety car restart, which allowed that Bentley of Jordan Pepper to take the lead eventually from the number 18 car. And there was the number 6 Boots and Guinean car, who really struggled that race with a big crash there. He was fine as well and walked away. And then we had another safety car restart and finally got some green flag running. Al-Faisal Al-Zubair having a brilliant run to begin with, along with Andy Soucek, who took over. But Jordan Pepper and Ivan Peklin did take the win for Team Lazarus, who were overjoyed with that to win right at the start. They were very happy indeed, and they'll be hoping they can see the front of the grid there. It's within touching distance, but it is a long race to go. 60 minutes on the clock, anything could happen.
Yeah, and you know, that is a lot of cars on one pit straight. So we got an Audi and a McLaren on the front row. Audi's first pole with the current generation R8. And here is the order. Yeah, let's run through the grid properly now. On the first row, Adam Carroll will start for the Audi R8 GT3 LMS Balf Motorsport team, Ollie Milroy alongside. Then it's Andy Soucek and Ivan Peklin, and then finishing out your top 5, Yuki Nemoto. So those are the first top 5 cars you can see. So the first 3 are all completely 3 different brands as well. We've got an Audi, a McLaren, a Porsche, and then we've got the Bentley as well, and a Lamborghini. So actually it's the top 5, all completely different brands. So it's very exciting here. Lots of honours to be won out on track as we get going for the formation lap. It will be a rolling start for the International GTOpen Series as ever. So they will form up 2 by 2 and let the safety car run, and then it will be Adam Carroll to lead them away. It's going to be such an interesting race, this, to actually monitor where that driver change comes as well, because yesterday we saw the driver change timing delayed quite a bit because of the safety car restarts, and that, well, we don't know, that might still happen today, but hopefully it doesn't. But that really allowed some drivers to really extend their stints, but allowing the next driver, who might not have been as fast, that little bit of a gap. But we did see it came, some people came
a scupper to that.
Yeah, and it was also because of the track evolution. So they're expecting to receive the car on a certain fuel load and a certain kind of tyre life. Obviously, they could change tyres during the stops. But then they were coming onto a totally new track, and it just took some of them by surprise, to be honest. We were seeing drivers who we thought would be right up at the order going down, and then drivers who had taken over the car in like 9th or 10th place charging through in that second stint in both GT Cup, Open Europe and International GTOpen.
Yeah, a little further down the grid, let's just touch on the GT Cup cars. Cup Pro-Am pole. Nico Verdonk put that on pole for the Aston Martin Pro Sport. He is worried though because he does have some faster cars behind him, he thinks, so it's going to be a battle on his hand to try and maintain that and finish towards the win even. And then in 4th place, Klingelberg will go and then swap over with Zamparelli in the E2P Racing Porsche. Now yesterday, Zamparelli was our pole sitter and absolutely made a brilliant start to really create a really nice gap when he handed over to Klingelberg. And then we found out that, well, Klingelberg we saw on screen that he just sort of disappeared from screen and it suddenly was ended up towards the back of the field, and we had no idea what happened to him. Well, I spoke to Dino Zamparelli earlier and he said, yesterday we had a really good car, I handed over to my teammate and unfortunately he suffered a little bit of a spin, and then they had a gearbox issue which meant they couldn't go down the gears. It fixed itself towards the end of the race and then they had some really good pace, so they'll be hoping to make up for that bad luck yesterday. Klingelberg will start the car before Zamparelli takes over. Lewandowski in the AM class for the GT Cup, really strong drive from him as well. A one to watch. He's he's just ahead of Estragues in that beautiful Ford Trans Am. He was in and out of the pit lane sadly yesterday with problems and ended up retiring. So we'll see if that Trans Am for the 360 Racing team can do any better today.
Yeah, and the Trans Am was one of the cars we didn't really get to talk about much because of how little we saw it. So it'll be great to kind of explain how unique that car is and how it's fared in GTOpen and GT Cup Open Europe so far. Because obviously last year we did have the 2 series race together. Yesterday we had one each, but we're combining them again now.
And we just saw it fall through there. So hopefully Estragues, who is the sole runner in that car, so he won't be changing drivers. Hopefully he'll be able to have a bit more of a run for it today. So we're just approaching the end of the formation lap now. That Audi safety car should head into the pits, and then Adam Carroll on your right in the Audi, and that is Ollie Milroy in the McLaren on the left, will take the lead for the rolling start as they come down the start-finish straight. It'll be all eyes to the red lights on the gantry here in Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet in France, and it is all eyes on the lights and foot to the floor, and that is a poor start from Adam Carroll, who falls back in the pack. That is Andy Soucek with a brilliant start in the Lechner Racing Porsche. He's going to take the lead going into turn 1. There's a Lamborghini having a little look as well in the background. That JP Motorsport car hugging the inside line. The Bentley of Van Pekman has to cut across the off-running area, and then that is the Lechner Racing car pulling a gap already on board with Patrick Kaprinski. This is where his teammate Christian Klein had that big accident down into turn 3. They all seem to have been able to made it through relatively unscathed so far, which is good to see, especially as we have a much bigger grid. So on board again with Patrick Kaprinski chasing down the Lamborghini in front of him. So that Andy Soucek car got an absolutely mega start and is leading.
Yeah, brilliant launch off the line, and tied up his line going into turn 1 very nicely, meaning the Lamborghini couldn't make that move down the inside. Lamborghini was second, now it's back down to third.
We've got a spinner in the background.
McLaren. Oh,
that's one of the Porsche Cayenne racing cars, the blue liveried car. Looks like it's lost it on the curb, but I think it should still be able to get going after that. We'll see who it is. Hopefully we'll get a replay and see how that happened. But it is Soucek, Milroy and the Moto in the number 19 green Lamborghini you can see in the background there. Adam Carroll fallen back to 4th on that. He was worried about falling back because they just don't have that straight line speed on board with Patrick Kaprinski.
Yeah, it was very messy, and several of them have gone wide, going to knock over some of the bollards there. So track limits is something race control is looking at quite closely in this race, but with so many cars and so much side-by-side action, I think it's going to be inevitable that some drivers are going to be running out wide, especially with such a long race as well. The tyres are going to have to go through a lot.
As we look at that beautiful black and gold JP Motorsport car coming through there with a little bit of gap in front of him to Beretta in the number 63 green Lamborghini, who is just behind that. We're watching the battle now, the number 11 of Pavrod in that Renault racing car, the Honda NSX, and now the Bentley has fallen back a little bit of Ivan Peklin. He's down to 8th, chasing Kaprinski, hoping to try and make up ground there as we head to start lap 2 here in France for the International GT Open.
And looking further back in the order, we've got a GT Cup Open Europe lead change. Matthias Lazowski past Nico Verdonk, they're currently in 14th and 15th. We're seeing that take place right now. The car number 24, Lazowski, taking that lead into turn 1 on the second lap of the race. We've got one of the GT Open cars in that kind of second half of the order, but otherwise it's all GT Cup Open Europe at the back, so it's going to be quite helpful for us having them all grouped together rather than cutting between them all. But further forward, I think Souček is under pressure again from Milroy.
It's about 7/10 speed on Ollie Milroy as we watch the GT Cup battle here. Yes, Lazowski has lost the lead, the Blanc Plan Sprint champion. No, he's gained the lead, sorry, from Nico Verdonk, who's lost the lead in that category. In the Pro Sport Aston Martin, you just see going through your picture now, he's being chased down by the number 66 of Lewandowski, the Carrera Cup Central Eastern 2012 champion, the 31-year-old Pole. But you're right, Elliot, Souček has initially been able to get away at the front, but Ollie Milroy keeping him honest as that Pro Sport has a little look on the inside of the Porsche in front, decides to think better of it, the 191 Aston Martin in that orange and white livery for Pro Sports. As we go back to our battle at the front, and it's gone down from 7/10 to 4/10 in the space of a few corners. Souček under big pressure here from Ollie Milroy in the Inception Racing McLaren.
Yeah, Milroy fought for several wins last year, so he knows exactly what needs to be done here. Paul Ricard is a very difficult track to overtake at, especially during these rather twisty and quite slow final corners, but when they do get to pace, you know, it's quite a thrill ride, the amount of speed you can carry through them, but it's always difficult. Coming into the final 2 corners now, got to make sure he avoids any locking up of the tyre, because that's going to put him under pressure down the pit straight. A little wiggle from the rear end of the McLaren there, coming down to complete the second lap of the race.
And Adam Carroll has, although he's fallen down to 4th, he's been able to sort of just about stick with them. He's in a separate battle with Yuki Nomoto just a bit further back as we focus on the front 2 runners, Souček and Milroy. Souček out in front, the 2009 Formula 2 champion, just in front of Ollie Milroy, the 2018 ALMS vice champion, the 31-year-old from Windsor. Coming through there, the gap maintaining at about 4/10 of a second. Ivan Peklin in the Bentley still holding 5th place and hunting down that JP Motorsport car. And this is a new car they're dealing with, of course, this year. They made the switch to McLaren for the 2021 season, so they're still trying to get to grips with this car, and that early crash yesterday is going to definitely put them on the back foot for today. Well, let's have a look at the start, though, here. Adam Carroll just seemed to... Did he get caught napping, or was that Porsche just exceptional when he put his foot to the floor? That Porsche was straight there.
It's getting a bump draft on the Lamborghini behind, so it's actually being pushed forward. Andy Souček getting a free ride there into the lead, essentially. Adam Carroll
you, Yuki Nomoto.
Yeah, that's a very strategic battle there.
Maybe they've had a word before. Look at this, Patrick Kaprinski wanting to hug that inside line behind the Honda NSX in front. This could be a little bit dangerous. He clatters the curb on the left, and then he's got to look to his right-hand side. Is there any cars there? Yes, of course there are. So he's forced to go to that runoff area. Just about makes it through. You'll see in the background the spinner for the Kame Racing team, the number 44. That would have been Stefano Bozzoni. And someone having to take, both Porsches having to take avoiding action there. But doesn't look like too much damage caused there. And that is the number 28 car of Jan Klingelnbergen. So he's had another spin as well as he did yesterday. So because that's the E2P racing car that was so dominant in yesterday's qualifying in the first half of the race. So their luck not improving today either as we refocus on the battle for the lead again. It's maintaining at about half a second now between Milroy and Souček, and those are your grid change positions so far. So Adam Carroll, obviously the big loser out of the top 5, losing 3 positions so far for that Balfe Motorsport team.
Yeah, and there's a 0.6 second gap between our top 2, both in GT Open and GT Cup. That's a battle for 14th place at the moment between Lazowski and Verdonk, but we're following the front 2 overall. Andy Souček looking very comfortable in that Porsche. He obviously did the second stint yesterday, so he didn't get to drive it on the higher fuel load, but he looks very comfortable there, and we're seeing an overtake down the pit straight. That looks like possibly a Lamborghini on one of the Porsches in the GT Cup Open Europe class. That's the number 100 being overtaken for 17th place. Actually, that might have been Giuseppe Cipriani. Jan Suzuki has lost a spot there.
Yep. The European Suzuki Swift Cup champion, driving in that Alder Motorsport 100 Porsche, losing a position there further back in the Cup category. As we continue to follow the leading battle at the moment, it's Porsche, McLaren, Lamborghini, Audi, Honda, your top 5. all 5 different brands, and here is a move for position, a little bit of argy-bargy there, door-to-door action from the number 32 of the 360 Racing Porsche. They all seem to make it through relatively unscathed, no big incidents so far. Adam Carroll falling back a little bit from Yuki Nemoto in front of him, not able to keep with that green Lamborghini and being shuffled back into the clutches of Marcus Pavarud and Mikel Beretta, who are having their own mini battle here. The battle over 4th, 5th and 6th. And there's Yuki Nemoto sort of on his own at the moment, trying to chase down that front 2 and get involved in the leading action.
And it's going to be almost easier that we do have different marks battling for the top 5 and 6 positions here, because, you know, if you're behind the same car, then you know where they're going to be strong and where they're going to be weak, and therefore they know where you're going to be going for. So that makes it a little harder, but because we've got such a variety here, including the Honda, which for design philosophy is quite distinctive compared to its opposition here, it's going to be a pretty exciting battle. And it looks like the Honda could be under pressure for position now. Lamborghini behind, looking very racy. We're going back to the front. Andy Soucek got a 0.6 second lead coming across the line to complete the 4th lap, leading Ollie Milroy in that McLaren. Adam Carroll in 4th, Marcus Pavarud in 5th, and Kelly Beretta in 6th. Lamborghini can seem to ride the curbs a bit more on this high fuel load, whereas Soucek has kept it cleaner, but obviously he's out front, so you know he doesn't need to push to overtake anyone because he's ahead.
No, well, the Lamborghini is really keeping pace as well with that Honda. Or the other way around even, because the Honda was a little bit slower yesterday, but showing some improved pace today. We go a bit further back in the field now to look at the GT Cup again. Nico Verdonk trying to get back the lead that he lost from the start. They're back in 15th overall. It's Lazowski in front of him in that orange Porsche, the 2 sort of orange liveried cars, fighting over 14th and 15th, but that is 1st and 2nd in the Cup Pro-Am category. And there is that Honda NSX GT3 Evo car. Still managing to hold off the number 63 of Beretta behind him just, but that Lamborghini is looking ever closer. The Audi in front of Adam Carroll a little bit able to escape, and that Bentley has still not been able to get past that McLaren, so that McLaren's got some good pace in it, because we know that Bentley is quick.
Yeah, but with the inexperience that Ivan Peklin has, you know, he hasn't actually, I don't think he's done maybe 1 or 2 overtakes in total, because he led that final stint pretty well. He had to reclaim the lead, but once he was ahead, he just pulled away. And this is his first weekend in GT3, so a lot of learning to be done. And being admired in the pack may not be the result he wants right now, but it's going to be a very good learning experience for him going forward, particularly if Team Lazarus ends up being a title contender with this car. And actually, he looks like he might be coming under a bit of pressure from the AM car behind that Mercedes, number 14, Jens Lieberhauser in that, the AKM Antonelli Motorsport car, the Mercedes AMG GT3. But I was chatting to Ivan Peklin earlier today, and he's just got such a straightforward mindset, which is probably what you need in a racing driver. You know, he's a 5-time Ukrainian karting champ, done a bit of Formula 4, and that's about it, as he has a little look to the outside of the JP Motorsport McLaren. Patrick Kaprinski taking the defensive line there. Peklin's going to have to try again, and that is allowing Jens Lieberhauser to close in as well. Yeah, Peklin did French F4 last year, did a few tests with the Bentley, just kind of get a taste, and he's going to try and get a taste of position right now, as he was looking left and right of the golden McLaren. It's going to be very difficult to overtake through these corners, but if he stays really close to his rear, I imagine he'll have the grunt to get past from the straight. Taking a slightly wider line through turns 3, 4 and 5, keeping it tight there, trying to get alongside, and then use the slipstream to then get alongside, and then it's last of the late breakers. What can he do on the straights? That Bentley, we know, is quick in a straight line and through the corners. It's a good overall package. He has a little look. He's going to try and dive down the inside, but Kaprinski is taking the defensive line and having absolutely none of it. But he does go a little bit deep into the corner. That's going to mean he's going to have a slightly disadvantaged exit. Peklin able to carry more speed and more momentum through. And don't forget that Mercedes of Jens Lieberhauser. He may be in the AM category, but he's absolutely keeping pace, and he's alongside that Bentley. No, just behind. So it's, as it stands at the moment, it is that McLaren of the JP Motorsport car, the number 88, able to keep that 7th place from Ivan Peklin, currently in 8th, and then Jens Lieberhauser ever so close to the back of that Bentley Continental GT3 car, even having a little thinker around the outside for it. Not able to carry the speed through on that case.
Another little look down the inside, but this final sector, we're seeing it time and time again with the multiple categories racing here this weekend. That final sector is just too difficult to make a pass. It's really all about setting up for that final turn 15 and forcing your driver in front into a bit of mistake to then try and get alongside him for turn 1. Nothing to be done there as we go through the final corner. 47.5 minutes remaining. Yuki Nemoto sets the fastest race lap time. He is having a good run of it, maintaining about a second behind second place Ollie Milroy, who has fallen back a little bit now from Andy Soucek, around about the 8/10 mark. So Soucek holding his ground for the time being. And then Nemoto, Carroll, Pavarud, Beretta. This is Kaprinski and Pecklin with Lieberhauser in the background there. Pecklin unable to find a way through so far. So Patrick Kaprinski doing a brilliant job so far of keeping that car in front. The 33-year-old Pole, he was in GTOpen last year, came second, 4 wins, 7 podiums. Was in the 2009 Renault Clio Cup as well, so using all of his experience to try and make that car as wide as possible. One of the most powerful machines he's probably driven. And that Adam Carroll Audi Balfour Motorsport car, a little bit in no man's land at the moment, maintaining 4th position quite nicely. I think they'll be relatively pleased with that as well. Currently second in the Pro-Am category, and then Marcus Paver 3rd there. But that is the Lamborghini having a little look at the NSX Honda. Looks to the left, looks to the right. No way through there, unfortunately. He'll have to try again.
And in class, that won't be for a position in class. He's currently, the Lamborghini's 3rd in the Pro class, so doesn't actually have anything to gain from passing the Honda this early. However, he is losing time to the cars way ahead of him, 5 seconds in the first 15 minutes of this race. I think Yuki Nemoto is probably the fastest car on track again right now, so those top 3 are really racing away, but that could all become nothing once we get to the pit stop stage.
Of course, and there is always the risk of a safety car as well, but that Honda does look like it is coming under increased pressure from the Lamborghini behind. It's Mikel Beretta in that Lamborghini, but as you said, Elliot, he is in the Pro class. Marcus Pavarud is in the Pro-Am class, but Mikel Beretta will want to clear him as quick as possible to avoid losing that time to Yuki Nemoto. And also, if he's faster, he's going to want to get by.
Yeah, and with a track like this, you know, track position does mean everything because it's so difficult to pass around Paul Ricard. And as it gets ever cloudier, I imagine the rain is very much a possibility. Using a lot of curb there, the Lamborghini. This Honda did do very well in its few appearances last year. It's a car that hasn't had too much European development, but that just makes it all the more exciting when it does appear, because we get to see the potential of it compared to, you know, some of these marques that have been doing GT racing in Europe for decades.
And some of them incredibly successful as well, which is what has brought them here to the International GTOpen Racing Series. One of the top classes for GT3 racing, and you're experiencing it right now. Andy Soucek looking like he's a little bit more under pressure than he has been in the last few laps from Ollie Milroy there. He's close to within half a second now. Milroy able to stick with him through the corners as we go split screen and have a look at a GT Cup battle for the lead as well. That is Nico Verdonk chasing down Matthias Lizowski on your left-hand side for the GT Cup lead. And then on your right-hand side of screen, that is the overall lead. Andy Soucek in the Porsche in front and Ollie Milroy in the McLaren behind. Two battles everywhere on track. You need about 4 split screens, I think, to see it all in its reality. But this just showing you how competitive this entire field is. There's basically 4 different races going on at the exact same time.
Yeah, there's a lot to look forward to and a lot to watch at the same time. And for you know, the marshals and the stewards and everyone who works at this track as well, that makes the job even harder as well, because you know, when drivers are being lapped, when passes are being made, you've got to monitor absolutely everything. And Verdonk has a little look. I think he's just trying to, you know, show himself in the mirrors, make sure the driver ahead knows that he wants to make an overtake, because some of them do flash their lights to try and signify that instead. But we've already had a steward's notice saying, please don't do that, drivers. It's not allowed. 2 of the Lamborghinis further ahead getting very dicey as well. McLaren in second place on the right of your screen, going down the pit straight, but on the left we're coming to turn 10 with our 2 GT Cup Open Europe leaders. There is it's a lot to follow right now.
It is on the left, Matthias Lizowski. That is in the number 24 Porsche. Matthias Lizowski, Polish 30-year-old, the Blancpain Sprint champion from 2014. All thought he'd created a little bit of a gap there to that Aston Martin behind, but Verdonk just about holding on. the 2017-2018 Nürburgring 24-hour winner in class, chasing down a Blancpain GT champion. It's going to be tasty on your left-hand side. Keep watching it, because now we switch to the Lamborghini further back on the right-hand side, as we're seeing Andy Souček flashing his lights to try and get the traffic in front of him to clear. So now we're going to see the problem that the leaders will have to navigate more so this race than they had to do yesterday, because we've got more cars on the grid today with GT Cup involved. Traffic is going to be a huge factor, and the Porsche's doing a good job so far of staying out of the way, but as Souček catches them on the right-hand side, that's going to prove tricky going into this final sector, because it is so tight and twisty. It's difficult to park in the best of circumstances, and this could put Ollie Milroy on the forward foot here. But that is the Lettner Racing car and the intersection McLaren touch. That's going to allow Nemoto, the Lamborghini, to go through down the inside of both of them in the lead. So your third place man now is Andy Souček in the Lettner Racing Porsche. No, he's gone on to second. So Ollie Milroy's now down back to third behind Andy Souček. Nemoto is now your new race leader. So it is Nemoto, Souček and Milroy. So all change there in a matter of a couple of corners.
Yeah, that's what happens when you try and lap cars on GT Cup Open Europe. And following on from that, the stewards have said the GT Open cars are allowed to put on their lights to tell these cars that they are going to be lapped and they need to get out of the way safely, because when they don't, excitement like that can happen. So we'd like to see a bit more of that, I think. Andy
Souček will be absolutely livid, because he's lost the lead trying to overtake slower cars in front of him, because that slowed him down enough to allow Ollie Milroy to have a look, and then the two of them came together ever so slightly. I don't think it was too intentional, too much damage there. Perhaps was slightly something hanging loose potentially on the rear right of that McLaren, maybe where it's rubbed up against, or is that just the bodywork? Have to get a closer look at that. But that allowed, of course, then Nemoto to hug that inside line of turn 10 and make the pass on both of them for the lead. That Lamborghini is fast this afternoon.
And here's a replay of the incident.
Well, here we go then. So there you can see Souček visibly being slowed down and Milroy taking that outside line. But what they're not seeing is the Lamborghini behind them. They do have a little crash, so it's front left to rear right for both of them. And then look, you can see the Lamborghini squeezing through down the inside of Souček. Let's have another look at it from a different angle here. So that McLaren on the outside is carrying way more speed, but comes across Souček, and then Souček trying to recover from his collision and avoid another one with a Lamborghini, who says, sorry mate, I'm coming through here now, you've had your chance.
Yeah, and at the exact same time as that, our GT Cup Open Europe leaders are battling as well, Lazowski and Verdonk. I think Verdonk almost, well actually yeah, Lazowski is still ahead, but Verdonk got very close. Gaps opened back up to 0.6 seconds there. They're kind of in clean air, so they're not going to bother these overall leaders at the moment, but there's a lot of battling going on.
So your overall leaders look like this. It is Yuki Nemoto in that green Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracan, the 24-year-old from Tokyo. Then in second it is Andy Souček in the Lettner Racing Porsche, and then Ollie Milroy in the number 7 Inception Racing McLaren, now down to third, just ahead of our pole sitter Adam Carroll in the Balf Motorsport Audi R8. As we look further back now to Ivan Peklin, who's maintaining 8th in that Bentley, yesterday's race winner, of course. And he's actually had to let Kaprinski go a little bit. He's not able to stay with him, back by about 4.7 seconds now as we have a look. Lettner Racing car of Andy Souček having a little look for the lead there. He wants that back, doesn't he? With 39 minutes to go on the clock, still plenty of changes to happen throughout this race. But Andy Souček, I think, is going to be absolutely livid that he's lost the lead like that.
Yeah, and he won't be happy to hear that his a little clash with Ollie Milroy is now under investigation as well. So there could be a penalty going to either of the two crews there. Nemoto looks a little slow through those corners, so Souček's right back up on the rear of him. It was 4 tenths at the start of lap. It's probably a little closer yet, just under 4 tenths now. Nemoto, you know, he's a Lamborghini protege. He's won quite a bit in Lamborghinis. Hasn't quite got to top. And here's a replay of one of the Porsches. That is the 190 car, I believe, of Jens Klingenberg, and he spun it. So he is in 26th place, very at the back of the field, 1 lap down. You know, dominated the first half of the GT Cup Open Europe race yesterday, and then didn't have the greatest of second stints, kind of disappeared from that race, and it hasn't been a great race too either.
No, but right, looking at that Lamborghini, it does look like it is struggling now, although it looked like it had the pace advantage in the last couple of laps. Souček seemingly up to speed once again now that they've cleared traffic. 0.4 seconds back from Nemoto. Ollie Milroy running out a little bit wide there. And I'll tell you what, Adam Carroll, although he's not able to keep with them, he's keeping them in sight just in front of him, and no one's behind him. As we look at the Bentley, having a little look on the inside of that number 44 car, he's trying to get the overtake done, has the driver completely off the road. That Porsche's not looking at all in his right wing mirror, and the Bentley loses out there, I think, to Jens Lieberhauser. That's allowed the AM driver, the number 14 Mercedes, to get through on the Bentley, and that number 44 car was the car we saw spin, that blue Cayenne Porsche racing car, right at the start of this race. Stefano Brizzoni on that, and as we see the Trans Am come in once again. So they're really struggling with that car this year, but I have to say, I think Ivan Peklin was a bit of a victim there of a slower car not looking and paying attention.
Yeah, we go back to our GT Cup Open Europe lead fight now between Zalski and Verdonk. Half a second separating them, and actually the lead fight further forward. No further action on the clash between Soucek and Milroy.
I think that's the right call there. Looked like more of a racing incident to me.
Yeah, coming down the straight, you see that the top speed difference between the GT Cup Open cars is a little less than the GT Open cars, so it is harder to kind of close in on the slipstream and attempt to move at that turn 10 corner we just saw. Both of them went a little wide. I'm surprised they put the bollards actually kind of around 2 feet away from the exit of the curve, because they know drivers go that far
it's
wide.
Like they want them to hit them.
Yeah, we're back on with Ivan Peklin. I think he really wants to reclaim that place.
Well, I think he did have a bit of a gap over Liebhauser before he came a cropper of that slower 44 car, the Cayenne racing machine racing in GT Cup. Stefano Brizzoni at the wheel, and yeah, he's already pretty much back through quite quickly. I think Liebhauser realises that actually there's no point in fighting that battle too hard, because that Bentley is so much quicker. But Liebhauser way in front, over 25 seconds in front of the next AM car, back to McKenzie in 13th. So that number 40 Mercedes with that driver lineup is really proving to be a brilliant choice for them. That's the AKM Antonelli Motorsport car. So let's have a look here. It's the number 4 Ivan Peklin. This is how he did it. Right up onto the back of Liebhauser, hugs the inside line. I have a feeling that Liebhauser almost, I don't know if he's got a problem, but it looks like he almost just let it through. Yeah,
very nicely positioned by Peklin, but then he also just kind of left the door open after that. Probably decided it wasn't worth the effort trying to, bang doors with a Bentley, a car that big. And the driver change is now on, so we could see some of these cars coming into the pits to swap round to the second driver. Obviously, a few of them aren't sharing with another driver, they're racing on their own. There is a long queue of cars going down the pit straight. We're going to see Yuki Inamoto cross the line in the lead, and we've already got a Porsche in the pits.
We've got our first car, so that is Masij Darmeko out and Artur Janos in for the number 26, back in the Cup entry.
And Michele Breister as well from 6th place in the Lamborghini. He'll be handing over to Fredrik Schandorf, so and Patrick Kapinski's followed in as well in the McLaren.
So Christian Kleen will be getting into that car there as we see a little gaggle of cars come through. We can see Patrick Kapinski getting out now.
And the Bentley of Ivan Peklin, so Team Lazarus has called as well.
Coming through, so that will allow Jordan Pepper, who led the race for so long yesterday, to take over the wheel. What can he do in that Bentley when he gets in the car on the right-hand side? That always confuses me when they open the right-hand side door, compared to most of the other cars who are all left-hand side. Back though with action on track, and that is the Balfe Motorsport car, very, very close to Ollie Milroy. So that Balfe Motorsport car, the Audi R8, pulling out to have a little look down the inside. Ollie Milroy struggling there. He's fallen way back from Andy Soucek. They were so close to begin with. That McLaren looked very strong in the early stages of this race, now coming under pressure from our pole man, who fell back right at the start of the race. As we cut back to the pit lane, we'll have to see what happens between Carroll and Milroy. 4 tenths between them. Right, hugged into the rear side of that McLaren. Difficult to find a way through there unless you're already alongside. And they both run out a little bit wide as we enter the final sector of this lap here at the circuit. Paul Ricard, I think Adam Carroll hasn't done much overtaking today. He's been overtaken a lot, so I think he'll want to do at least one before he hands over his drive to Sean Balfe.
And we're seeing some of the cars exit pits as well. I think Peklin may have made up a place on pit lane as they exit. So we've got a Porsche ahead, then the Team Lazarus, then 2 of the Mercedes and the McLaren. So Peklin dives down the inside of the Porsche. Ooh. I imagine they should have let him pass there, but that would have been for, I think, 10th place. Here's Adam Carroll coming behind the corner. So they haven't pitted. They've got 9 minutes left of this driver change window. That looks like a bit of a slow stop for the number 17, which is down in... it's way down the order. Jan Seifert in 15th place. in the AM class. Going back to the front, Yuki Inamoto 7/10 ahead of Andy Soucek. So they've got a little less pressure on them now because Milroy and Carroll are fighting in 3rd and 4th. Here's one of the Vincenzo Sospiri Lamborghinis.
Yep, that's Andrzej Lewandowski in that car. Just him in the car though, so he won't be changing over, so he'll stay in that car. So we'll see what he can do further down in the GT Cup. Cut back to our race leaders currently. Soucek able to stay within a second of Inamoto, who nipped through on Soucek when the Porsche Lettner racing driver came a cropper with some traffic. And Carroll now still about half a second behind Ollie Milroy, who is struggling for pace, I think, in this middle half of the race. And I think he'll want to hand that car over as soon as possible to try and see if they can salvage anything in the second half. And I think that is a bit of right rear bodywork flailing about in the back from his contact with Andy Soucek earlier on. I don't think it's anything major, probably just artificial damage from that bodywork, but we'll see if that might be having a little bit of effect on the downforce as they go through all the corners and of course down the straights in that straight line speed.
Yeah, and it looks like Milroy has pulled ahead a little bit. Yuki Inamoto looking a bit rough on the curbs as well. Half a second advantage there. We've got even more cars coming to pits. Some of the GT Cup Open Europe entries, the 190. So this is the car that Fernando Navarrete, I believe, drives.
The 190, yeah, it's the Navarrete. Yeah. So Navarrete Junior in, Navarrete Senior out.
And yesterday it was the other way around. So which is, you know, if you're the younger one, it feels more fun to take over rather than having to give up your seat. And it looks like a bit of a tricky driver change over there for 27. There's more traffic for our front cars. Yuki Inamoto stuck behind the Porsche that spanned at the start of this race. Has cleared at the final corner. Soucek could draw alongside though as they come down the pit straight.
I think he's going to struggle here. He's going to want to tuck back in to get that slipstream. But then as Inamoto comes over to take the racing line, very difficult to pass here on the inside because that outside racing line, you just carry so much momentum through turn 1 here, clatter the inside curbing, take the other right-hand side curbing as you come down now to turn 3, where we saw some pretty hefty crashes in yesterday's race and in the Euro Formula Open that's having it this weekend as well. So far, Inamoto able to hold the lead from Soucek. Milroy a further 2 seconds back. Adam Carroll not able to make too much of an impact there, struggling to get past the 8/10 mark behind Milroy. Marcus Pavarud in 5th, and we now look at the number 14 of Jens Lieberhauser getting out of the AKM Antolini Motorsport Mercedes. Florian Schulze will take over, the current reigning GT Open AM champion. And here we go then. That is the closest Andy Soucek has been for a little while. He looks to the inside, he looks to the outside, he's forced to the outside line. That will allow Inamoto to defend, but he's going to have the weaker line going through the chicane. Can Andy Soucek carry the momentum through and get alongside as we go into turns 10? Tucks back in for the slipstream, that Lamborghini VSR, which is so fast in a straight line, but so is the Porsche. He's going to have the outside line going into the next corner. Can't do anything about it there. This is the same corner where he ended up losing the lead a few laps ago. Inamoto able to hold it for now, the Lamborghini ahead of the Porsche.
Yeah, and team manager of car number 44 has to report to race control immediately, so I imagine that is something to do with the pit stop. That's Eugenie Pisani in the GT Cup Open Europe near the back.
It's that blue Porsche 44 car which has been getting in everybody's way. So I'm wondering it might actually be something to do with that as well. As we see Nico Verdonk, who was in that Pro Sport 191 car trying to tackle the lead from Lazowski. He's come in and he'll swap out for Rodrigue Guillon.
And Team Lazarus has gone to the top of the times on fastest lap. Jordan Pepper, 2:01.746. That's his second lap in the car. He's already setting the pace here. Now, when they went into the pits, he was around 8 seconds behind our leading 3. They've been getting stuck in traffic and fighting, so potentially this could bring the Bentley into contention.
Well, to say Jordan Pepper was an absolute star of yesterday's race, and he's still got 28 minutes of track action remaining in this race, so he'll be wanting to try and make up as many positions as he can. Currently not on the pro podium either, so he's going to want to catch up to Frederick Schandorf in the other VSR Lamborghini if he wants to get on the pro podium. But we'll see how this shakes out once the cars ahead of them have come in for their pit stop and driver change. And still this battle of the lead goes on, and it will be dominated by how well they can get through the lapped traffic. Inamoto having a little look down the inside of this Porsche. Soucek's going to want to try and do the same thing as quick as he can. He won't want to be behind that purple and black Porsche any longer than he has to be. And I think he'll be able to do it into the braking zone. Yes, he can. Manages to stick with Nemoto, which will be music to his ears. But we do have another lap car in front as well. But of course, we've got to be thinking about when will they come into change? Are they going to try and leave it as late as possible or not?
They essentially have this lap and the next to do it, but they can see third and fourth place behind them in their mirrors now. You know, with the positioning in the pit lane, there's more advantageous spots in the pit lane, particularly if you have to let people past, as that GT Cup Open Europe car is doing, and Souček gets very close to Lamborghini. That was all fine, very nicely done there by the Porsche, but it did get a little close. Now, we need to see if they dive into the pits at the end of this lap.
A little further back as well, I've just noticed that Adam Carroll has fallen a little bit further back from Ollie Milroy, so potentially tyre wear coming into things now. And that is Nemoto going into the pits. It looks like a last call for Andy Souček, who might have gone and would be told on the radio, do whatever he doesn't do. So that is Nemoto into the pits for a driver change for VSR, and Souček carries on, so he'll have to do one more lap before he comes into the pit lane, but he does crucially take the lead, and hopefully he'll be hoping for a bit of free air to try and make up the time and overtake Nemoto through the pit stops, as we see that is Adam Carroll coming in now. Sean Balfe will be getting into that car. The 2017 GT Open Pro-Am champion. So that Balfe Motorsport team hoping to make some inroads there. They come in from third on the road, but they'll be shuffled back slightly once the pit stops shake out. But it is Andy Souček who leads from Ollie Milroy, a further 1.2 seconds back. So out of the front runners, it's Souček and Milroy who have stayed out the longest.
Yeah, and actually Christian Klein right now is the fastest driver on track in the number 88 McLaren. So potentially we could have a 5- or 6-way fight for the lead here. Obviously there's a minimum time for the pit stops. I was seeing the number 12 come in. That is currently down in, I think quite far down the order.
It's 17th, it's Glaucoi Solieri, but that is the lead Pro-Am in the GT Cup currently, but actually I might have to wait till the in the AM category, sorry. So Glaucoi Solieri coming in there.
So Carroll has closed in right onto the leader of this race, well, the provisional leader, because we've still got two cars out in front, and his teammate swoops past. I believe that was the car that was previously driven by Michele Beretta. This is getting very close.
That was Frederick Schandorf. Was that a move for position?
Yes, so we've got the Honda behind them as well. So we know these three cars were already fighting victory, or at least two of them were, so now that's definitely 4 cars in contention. We've got Souček and Milroy still ahead, 1.1 seconds ahead of them. They are lapping slower than everyone who has pitted. So, and they've only got 1:12 until they can come back in. Warning flag for car 47 for track limits and touching the bollard at turn 5.
Souček in and out to the pit lane along with Ollie Milroy. I imagine he'll be right behind him. There he is. So those are the last of the runners in this top battle to take their pit stops. Schandorf in the number 63 VSR has been able to take Nemoto, which has now become Baptiste Moulon, through the pit stop phase. So that is a change for position there for our overall leader. We'll see if Souček has made up any ground by staying out longer and how this pit stop goes. Brendan Irebe will be getting in for Ollie Milroy.
I think Schandorf's going to inherit the lead. He's done 3 or 4 laps in the 2-minute 02s, and our two leaders at the front are in 2-minute 03s. So that was approximately maybe 3 or 4 attempts of each of those laps. And with the pit stop time as well, we saw actually the car now being driven by Brendan Irebe, but Ollie Milroy really closed in on the pit entry. That's what it did behind. In fact, I can see Brendan Irebe getting in the car just underneath us, so we can see who's going to come out of the pit lane first out of these two cars.
Well, it is also further back. I want to see how Sean Balfe has been able to close in as well in that orange Balfe Motorsport car. They seem to have made up a position through that pit stop change as we see the cars exiting the pit lane now. Where does Souček come? The driver change has finished. We've got a battle there
for the Cup car.
But that is a long stop, and out comes Andy Souček way ahead. Sorry, it's Al Zubair now in the car, way ahead of Schandorf. Where does Ollie Milroy, who has now swapped, and it has become Brendan Irebe, come out? He's behind the two Lamborghinis, and then Sean Balfe will feed in behind them. So it's all changed at the front now.
Yeah, in that driver change there for McLaren, they had to hold the car, allow a few others down the pit lane to go past them, and then I think he briefly stalled the car as he launched out of his box. So that's cost him time, but it's surprising that the Audi, which was right on the tail, the Lamborghinis, is now behind him as well.
Well, it is Al Faisal Al Zubair, who I think thanks to Andy Souček, staying out a little bit longer in his first stint, has been able to retake the lead that the Porsche had for so long at the start of this race. And they are just ahead of the first of the Lamborghinis you see in your picture. That is the number 63 of Schandorf, who's been able himself to get ahead of the number 19 behind him, the second of the green Lamborghinis, which was in the lead before the pit stop. So Nemoto and Moulin, who is now in the car, are the biggest losers in that.
Yeah, and the car that was going fastest beforehand, Jordan Pepper, is actually 27 seconds back in 8th place. We thought it was going to be far closer. Now, I think this is because minimum pit stop times are slightly different for different classes and based on previous success as well. It does mean, though, we have 3 pros in top 3 positions, which is the first time we've seen that all weekend.
Well, here's a look at Al Faisal Al Zubair trying to overtake a car for a slower car, who decides to get out of the way by spinning off the track.
Yeah, a bit iffy there. The 2 Lamborghinis now, so there's a 3.3 second gap between Al Zubair and Schandorf. Another second back to the second Lamborghini, which we can see here. Brendan Irie 8 seconds off the lead now, but ahead of Sean Balfe. Jens Renault Moller crept into contention, 12.6 seconds behind. And Nico Bastian actually 9th place, 29 seconds back. That's definitely a car to watch based on yesterday. But, you know, that's quite a gap to make up.
Yeah, the 48 and the 47 behind him, Loris Spinelli, were both up there in the top 3 yesterday, and now only 9th and 10th. So whatever they've done today has not been able to match their pace from yesterday. But it is Al Zubair who leads from Schandorf, Moulin in 3, in 3rd, and then Irie, Balfe, Muller, Klein, Pepper, Bastian and Spinelli are your top 10 so far. Then it's Osborne, Schulze, Seifert, Cipriani, Gillian, Lewandowski, Blasek, Dwanicki, Janos, Fortes, Solieri, Zamparelli now in the Pro-Am Cup car. We'll see what they can do in the hands of that number 18 Porsche. Dino Zamparelli, very quick driver around here as we ride on board now with Christian Klein, going through the scene of his big accident yesterday, following the number 11 Renault racing car of Jens Renault Müller now in the car, the 50-year-old from Icast, the Blockplan Club champion, being chased down by the 51 Formula 1 Grand Prix driver Christian Klein. Raced for Red Bull, Jaguar, Toro Rosso, Hispania Racing in the latter years. Probably wants to forget that last trip, but a very experienced racing driver having a little look down, and they've got Sean Balfe in front of them as well. And actually, that is the Nissan going that's the Honda, sorry, going a little bit deep on the brakes, and is that going to allow Christian Klein to get right up onto the back of him? He darts to the left-hand side. That's going to give the Honda the advantage, and they're both catching though in front of them that Audi R8 of Sean Balfe, where they're going to have to split either side of him at one point, I think. But no, how's it going to go going into this next corner? And that looks like Christian Klein. We need the camera to turn right and see where that car is in the inside. Christian Klein's done Jens Renault Müller, so that is a change for position, and now fancies a go on Sean Balfe, and this is the position change. So it's 5th Sean Balfe currently under huge pressure from that black and gold car of Christian Klein, currently in 6th, and then it is Jens Renault Müller in 7th in the Honda NSX, and that is Christian Klein getting down the inside of Sean Balfe. He's going to have the outside line going into the penultimate corner. That's your entry to the pit lane on the right, and this will be turn 15. He'll have the inside though for the final corner, and it looks like he's probably got him clean before they even exit. And I think that is the move done for Christian Klein, as now Sean Balfe coming under huge pressure from Jens Renault Müller in the number 11 Honda. And that looks rather easy, actually, I hate to say it, but that Audi's struggling for race pace compared to its qualifying times.
Yeah, and Jens Renault Müller kind of got boxed in by Christian Klein there. Very clever move by Klein, but then Balfe actually moved across to the left-hand side of the circuit, so it ended up Klein had boxed himself in, but he still got the pass done, which was pretty good down at turn 10. Warning flag for car number 100, track limits. That's Jaka Dwanicki in 3rd place in GT Cup Open Europe Pro-Am class. Down in 18th place overall. Yep. And looking at the gaps further back, although Balfe is 17 seconds back, Pepper another second closer on this lap. He's closing in around 3 or 4 tenths a lap on the cars ahead. Well, let's have a look. We rode on board as it happened, but I thought there might be a pincer manoeuvre here on the Audi, but no, they managed to feed themselves one by one through that corner. But then that McLaren of Christian Klein just carrying way more speed than Sean Balfe in the Audi does a really nice move here into the penultimate corners of this lap. We'll have the outside for turn 14, which then becomes the inside for turn 15, and he's already well and done the move before turn 15 braking zone. So
It's Alzubert, Schandorf, Moulin, Irib, and then Clean coming through your picture now. Muller and Balf just in the background, and Jordan Pepper, as you've been keeping an eye on Elliott, currently 8.5 seconds off though. Then Bastian and Spinelli holding 9th and 10th quite nicely ahead of yesterday's podium. Second place, Osborne for the Inception Racing team. McLaren not having the best of runs today.
Yeah, Nico Bastian to watch for as well, down in 9th place. He said a 2:02.640. And actually further back than that, Joe Osborne, 2:02.5. So that's the back of the Pro-Am class, but the faster cars seem to be further down the order right now.
Let's have a look further back down the order, shall we, as we watch the Christian Clean car coming through. And let's take you through some of the Cup action as well. So it is Andres Lewandowski in the number 66, who currently leads the Pro-Am class in the GT Cup, 15th overall. He's way ahead of Fernando Fortes, who is second in the Pro-Am Cup, down in 20th position. Then we go to the Pro-Am Cup, sorry. No, that's Andrew Sladzowski is...
Yeah, so Lewandowski's in the Pro-Am class, but he's fighting... No, he's in the Am class, but fighting for position with a Pro-Am driver.
Yeah, so he's really outpacing the car there.
Yeah, and his class rivals are around 50 seconds back, but he's got a 4.2 second gap over Rodrigue Guillon and is extending it lap by lap. Now Faisal Al-Zubair 1.6 seconds ahead now. He's actually extended lead by a 10th over Schandorf. Pretty impressive last lap. Baptiste Moulin 4.66 seconds behind in third. We've got 16 minutes left in this race, and there is 20 seconds covering our top 7 cars, with Jens Renault Moller just ahead of Sean Balfe at the back of that train.
Well, if it's anything like yesterday's race, there's still a lot more action to come here. But it is indeed Faisal Al-Zubair who took over from Andy Soucek after that brilliant start for the Spaniard to take first place for so long. Lost it a little bit to Namamoto in the VSR Lamborghini, but managed to regain it after the pit stops. And now Al-Zubair is pulling away. So a really good job so far by both of the Lechner racing cars there. That team is 11-time Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup champions for a reason. One of the most successful teams to come out of Austria. They know how to race a car, as we watch this battle now for 6th overall between Muller in that Honda and Balfe in the number 22 Balfe Motorsport Audi R8 LMS. It's a real shame for that Audi. Had really good qualifying pace, started on pole, but didn't even make it down to turn 1 before it lost the lead. So, and which, speaking to Adam Carroll, who started that car and was the driver who qualified it on pole, they always knew they would struggle in the race. He said, "I'll try to drive the car as wide as I possibly can." But ultimately, they are lacking a bit of straight line pace, especially compared to the other brands around them, including the Porsches, the Mercedes, and of course that Bentley, which is coming up quickly behind him now. Jordan Pepper just 1.3 seconds in 8th. I imagine he'll take Balfe and then set his sights on trying to get a top 5 finish if he can do that in the final 15 minutes.
Yeah, an incident involving cars 11 and 66, Jens Renault Moller, and 66 Lewandowski. No further action after investigation, so I believe that was when he was lapping him, and things got a little dicey there. We're going back to the GT Cup Open action with the Aston Martin. Normally we have Aston Martins fighting for overall victory in GT Open, but this year it seems to be in the GT Cup where the British brand is most present. And he's racing on his own, it looks like, at the moment. He's got quite a gap.
Well, something's happened there that we've missed on screen, because it was Nico Verdonk in that car who was second in class, chasing down the number 24. So there's been a change there, because now Rodrigue Guillon is in that car, and Lizowski, who was in the lead, has swapped out for Blazek. So either Verdonk did an absolutely stonking drive before he came in to the pits and jumped him in the pit lane, or something's happened there in the pit stops. Of course, different timings as well perhaps have affected that, so we'll see how that plays out. But Guillon now in the lead in the Pro-Am Cup class, but they are behind the Am Cup leader, Andres Lewandowski. Fernando Fortes and then Glauco Solieri, who makes up the top 3 of the Am class in the GT Cup Open Europe. Focusing now, though, this is looking a lot tighter than it has been in the last few laps. Faisal Al-Zubair has lost his 2-second gap now to Frederic Schandorf in that green Lamborghini, the number 63 Vincenzo Sospiri racing car. And as I predicted further back, the Bentley has managed to get the Audi of Sean Balfe. Nice clean move there from Jordan Pepper, who will now set his sights on 6th place of Jens Renault Müller. He's got about a 1.7 gap to overcome there. And that Christian Clean JP Motorsport McLaren coming alive a little bit in the second half of the race. Now got his sights firmly set on Brendan Irebe in the Inception Racing McLaren. The 42-year-old from the USA, having to take those defensive lines. Two McLarens as well fighting each other, so they might well be pretty evenly matched. That is Brendan Irebe in a McLaren 720S and Christian Clean in a 720S. So the cars are the same.
Yeah, they sound like spaceships as well when you hear them in pit lane.
That's a change for the lead. That's a change for the lead. That is Al-Faisal Al-Zubair losing the lead to Frederic Schandorf in the Lamborghini, the number 63. That Lamborghini just seemingly having way more pace than the Porsche. Change for the lead. That is Schandorf leading the way in the International GT Open ahead of Al-Faisal Al-Zubair.
Yeah, that occurred in the opening corners. We're hopefully going to see a replay of it. So just dives down the inside. Very good move, because there were half a second between them as they came into that lap. The Porsche had a little look to try and reclaim the position, but that means Baptiste Moulin's actually only 4 seconds behind Al-Zubair now as well. So it's getting close up front.
I think Al-Zubair could have closed the door possibly a little bit earlier, but I'm not a racing driver, so what do I know? But here, though, is another close battle that's been brewing between Irebe and Klein. This is over 4th, and I think Klein very much wants to stay at a podium, and now we're on board again with Al-Faisal Al-Zubair, chasing down, or trying to chase down again, but he's losing speed to that Schandorf Lamborghini in front of him.
But potentially, I think we have Giuseppe Cipriani further ahead of them, because they're about to lap another car, so that could be helpful if they catch them in the first sector. It could bring those two closer together. Now we're again back with the McLarens going through the final corner. 4th and 5th place, they're 11 seconds back. Now if I were them, I'd try and help each other, slipstreaming that, because 11 minutes left and 11 second gap. They'd ideally want to get on the overall podium, and the only way they're going to do that is if they can speed themselves up. Yeah,
Brendan Irebe, of course, on the podium yesterday. We'll want to repeat that today. But at the moment, they are 1st and 2nd in the Pro-Am category. But as Elliot, you say, they want to be in the overall podium as well. But currently, Christian Clean does seem like the stronger of the two McLarens, all over the rear diffuser of Brendan Irebe, seemingly not being able to get as much out of his McLaren 720S as Christian Clean. He'll be relishing this, because 3 corners in after yesterday, the long wait to go racing again, and 3 corners in, his day was done. So luckily, we have 2 races in the International GT Open, so he gets to have another go at it. And of course, they were able to fix that car in time as well. So great work there from the JP Motorsport team as we ride on board once again, going down straight into that tricky chicane. Very important you try and clatter those curbs in the right way to not lose any speed and carry forward that momentum onto the next straight. The lead Lamborghini just coming through in the foreground there, and that is the JP Motorsport McLaren. Very close indeed. Is he able to get alongside him? Not quite enough. Brendan Irebe shuts the door on Christian Clean. Clean will have to wait a little bit longer to get through. And that looks like one of the Cup Porsches coming through there. As we focus back on this battle for third, 4th. Brendan Irebe in 4th, Christian Clean in 5th. The battle for 4th is on. 0.1 seconds splitting them. Clean having a little dart down into turn 15. Can't quite get it worked there. I don't think he's going to be able to carry enough speed now down the pit straight, but it was worth a shot. A very last minute move there as we see a drive-through penalty for car number 44. That is the Kane Racing blue Porsche that we saw spin right at the start of the race, who has been done for speeding in the pit lane. So the number 44 not enjoying a particularly great race this afternoon, as that JP Motorsport car has to sit behind a little longer. It does look quicker, but because they're the same car, it's going to be even tougher to overtake.
Yeah, and it's getting darker as well, because you can see the reflection of the lights now. These two McLarens certainly getting very close to each other. They said yesterday they didn't want to do too much fighting in the final few laps between McLarens, because not only were they, was Ollie Milroy going to be showing a car, and here's a replay of a move between 2 of the Lamborghinis. Lovely move down the inside by number 8, Giuseppe Cipriani, for position on Jan Seifert. So that is for 12th overall. I was going to say, In 2020, there were a lot of intra-McLaren crashes, which we'd like to avoid this year. But it is still Brendan Irie ahead. He's held off a lot of pressure from Christian Klein. Not often do you have a Formula 1 driver in your mirrors unable to overtake you.
No, not at all. Jordan Pepper as well. Well, the longer they fight, the Jordan Pepper Bentley behind will catch up. He's still about 8 seconds off this battle, but if Brendan Irie can hold Klein up a little bit longer, that will allow Pepper to come into play as well. And then potentially Nico Bastian and Loris Spinelli, but only 7 minutes and 43 seconds remaining of this race 2 here in France at the circuit. Paul Ricard for round 1, race 2 of the International GT Open and the International GT Cup Europe. Brendan Irie still managing to put his car in all the right places as we have a look, and it looks like someone's day is done. Oh, it's the number 14 car, the Amber Florian Schulze. Such a good race yesterday, another good one today, but they seemingly having to retire. We'll have to find out what's happened to that Mercedes as we once again go through the final turn 15 on to the start finish straight. It is Brendan Irie in front of the Inception Racing McLaren, and behind him in the black and gold JP Motorsport, it is Christian Klein, who's been dying to get past Irie for so long now. Has a little dart to the left, a dart to the right. Going to decide on the outside line. That is the right line you want to take through turn 1. Can he make it hold for turn 2, heading down to turn 3? Yes, he can. Irie disadvantaged there by taking the inside line, not able to carry the momentum through. Klein through on Irie for 4th.
Yeah, the rear ends of the car did step out. I think maybe briefly touched as they exited turn 1, but wouldn't have lost any driver momentum there. And luckily they cleared the lap to Porsche as well. So all of this battling has meant they're now 12 seconds behind. I think when they started this, they were only 8 seconds behind. Routinely at least a second a lap slower than the top 2 cars. So this has ruled them out of victory contention. But for Pro-Am honours, this is still for the overall win in that class. So Klein is now going to bring home victory if he stays ahead of Irie. And then further back is Nico Bastian. Here's a action between the number 32. That's further down the order as well. That's Fernando Forte. And I think Jakob Zunicki was ahead. Here's a replay of the move.
Yep, so that was Christian Klein able to get that outside line, forcing Brendan Irie on the inside. I think there might have been a little bit of a love tap there. We'll have a look. Is there a little bit of a maybe? Hard to tell when we ride on board, but a very nice move there from the Austrian.
Here's a slow motion replay. So look at the rear end step out. Yeah, there's contact. You see it at the steering wheel there as well, jostling around at the wheel, trying to keep the car straight. They're 5 seconds in hand over. Jordan Pepper's now only 18 seconds off the lead. Started off, I think, 29, so he's closed in 11 seconds on the race leader. Clearly the fastest driver in this stint.
And Schandorf has absolutely cleared Al-Faisal Al-Zubair out in front from that Porsche Lettner car, which had around a 2.4 second lead, to drop back now 2.7 seconds behind Schandorf. So Al-Zubair not able to stick with our current leader. It is then Moulin in the number 19 Lamborghini who managed to get back in front. No, he hasn't. Who managed to actually get outdone by his number 63 teammate in the pit stops, because it wasn't Nemoto who led for so long after taking the lead from Lechner in the first part of this race, the Suchek-Lechner. As we watch our race leader come through, 26 laps completed so far, 4.5 minutes remain.
And with Florian Scholz out the race, that now means we've got a really close battle for AM-class victory down in 12th place between Cipriani and Jan Seifert. 1 second separates those two, so that's going to get pretty... 0.6 seconds as we come through the second sector, as we follow the number 77, Al-Faisal Al-Zubair still in second. Baptiste Moulin, Hungary for that second place as well.
Yep, Baptiste Moulin in that Lamborghini, the 2020 GT World Challenge, 6th overall with a podium, the 22-year-old from Belgium. 2 young guns in that car, actually. Nemoto was 24. Nemoto, the driver in that car to begin with. So we could well see, potentially, I don't want to jinx it, a Lamborghini 1-2. And having had a year out of the sport, wouldn't that be nice to see? But hey, no, I shouldn't say that because we're not biased. But
a big return.
Everyone loves a Lamborghini.
Yeah, and for obviously having a Lamborghini Junior in the car, that's pretty good for the brand too. But there's still all to play for, and I think going down the classes, how many different brands are going to be picking up first place trophies today? Cipriani, number 8, is in fact driving, I may be a Lamborghini.
He is driving a Lamborghini Huracan, the Il Baron Rapant team. Giuseppe Cipriani, the 2019 GTOpen Am champion, so he's no stranger to winning. So he's trying to currently hold off Jan Seifert in the number 17 car. That is the HP Racing Lamborghini.
And we go over to that battle now. That is very close. Now, having two Lamborghinis, though, is going to be very difficult to pass. Not only because of the same car, but also they're just really wide. You can just plant it in the middle of the road and the driver behind can't go left or right because there just isn't enough space.
Yep, it is Jan Seifert, the 23-year-old from Stuttgart, chasing down the Lamborghini in front of him with the turquoise eyelashes. And there we have that number 44 car is having a tough time of it at the moment. Is he? Oh, and he's going into the pit lane. Sorry, I thought he was. I thought that was the background image there. Yeah,
while we saw Loris Spinelli trying to lap Fernando Forte and just bash into him at the final corner. I think neither driver left each other enough room there. Seeing Schandorf pulling away ahead. Christian Klein as well has pulled 5 seconds over Brendan Ireeb now. He's got ahead. So yeah, definitely AM class is where to watch.
And Pepper now just 7/10 behind Ireeb. He's managed to claw that gap down to just 7/10. It was over 5 seconds. So that Bentley, I think that battle is going to come alive in the final few minutes of this race. Well, just 1 minute and 49 to go. So we'll be getting the call for final lap any minute now. Schandorf with him making a brilliant 5 grid positions up from where he started so far. Then Al Zubair and Moulin as your current overall podium. And here is that Bentley trying to make a move on the McLaren of Brendan Ireeb. Can't quite make it through there, but that Bentley looking much more superior, under braking and through the corners, able to keep a much tighter line through there. Little bit of a touch, ever so slightly, that forces the McLaren of Ireeb out wide. And I think unless Ireeb can come back down the inside, which he can, into the final section of this lap, forces the Jordan Pepper Bentley out wide for Team Lazarus. They'll be grimacing in the garage watching that as we come through turn 14 and into our final corner of turn 15. And that Brendan Ireeb taking a very tight inside line, and I think that is the writing on the wall though for him, as Jordan Pepper took a much wider line, carrying way more speed. Can he get alongside on the start finish straight? This is the final lap, so if Pepper is going to get past, he's got to do it sooner rather than later. Is he going to go into turn 1? Has a little look, thinks about it, tries it. Not on that occasion. We'll have to find another way through. Ireeb holds on to 5th. Schandorf currently leading from Al Zubair, Moulin, Klein. This is the battle for 5th, and Ireeb and Pepper are coming under huge pressure here. 2nd overall though, Pro-Am category still. Pepper won't be able to get on the overall podium or the Pro podium, but he'll still want that 5th place after their stunning win yesterday, because that will give them a nice bunch of points as we head away after round 1 here.
Yeah, and we can actually see in the very background of that shot, Nico Bastian being chased by Loris Spinelli for 7th place. Here comes the Bentley again, almost looking over the top of the McLaren, so big is that car. Looks right, looks to the left. He's going to try and go around the outside, I believe, or down the inside of this chicane. Yeah, it is the chicane. So both of them run over different curbs there. Bentley slid a little bit too much at the rear, so he won't have the pace to outdo him at the exit of the corner, but he's already right onto the rear of the McLaren. Pretty ominous looking sight if you're in that McLaren right now. Now he's going to pick the outside line for turn 10. There's going to be a lot more grip there, a lot more speed, but going side by side is going to be a bit close. Oh! Looks like a little touch. He's gone wide, he's kept the position. So the Bentley is ahead. Jordan Pepper up into 5th place. Brendan Ireeb down to 6th. And after all that, you know, they're different classes, so it's not going to affect the podium battles. No, but Pepper will want to get pride positioning there as we head through the final corner, and we take a look at our race 2 winner in the International GT Open. It will be Frederick Schandorf, who crosses the line alongside Mikel Beretta for the number 63 Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini car. Will take the overall win here in France at the circuit, Paul Ricard. Moulin will come home in 2nd in the Moulin de Moto VSR Lamborghini. A great run from them, just missing out 4.6 seconds back. Al Zubair will come home in 3rd after all that, after leading for so long. Christian Klein will be in 4th, and Jordan Pepper was in 5th overall. And we need to follow our AM class battle. That's still raging on, half a second between them in 12th and 13th. So Sean Balfe will complete this race in length. He's at the very back of the shot in the Audi. We're hopefully going to see it in the final corner. Here they are, they're right on the tail of each other, coming to the chicane. And that's actually a GT Cup Open car ahead. He runs a little too deep in the turquoise Lamborghini. Cipriani has the X to the corner. No, we don't need to see a replay right now.
With this, we do need to see, because this was on the final corner of the final lap, and that is how Moulin got second on the final lap of the final corner from Al-Faisal Al-Zubair. But I think Al-Zubair will be having a word to the stewards about that, because it seems like he was forced out wide there. So we'll see if that comes to anything at the moment as we go back on board here. And there's all sorts of things going on here, because we've got a slower car of the Aston Martin, but that is the lead car for the Pro-Am Cup. So that is Rodrigue Guillon trying to make it home to take the win in that category, as we watch the number 8 of Giuseppe Cipriani in the lead Lamborghini backing away from Jan Seifert, trying to keep him back.
He's already back on his tail though. He's already back. He's already chasing him down. So he could dive down the inside of the final corner.
It's going to have to be a last corner dash.
Yeah.
We go through turn 14. I think the number 8 has done it. Cipriani takes a very defensive inside line. Can Seifert carry anything through this final corner? I don't think he'll be able to. What a tight battle here in the AM class of the International GT Open. Cipriani fends off Seifert. They finished 12th overall, but that is 1 and 2 in your AM category. And then Rodrigue Guillon will come home as your winner in the Pro-Am for the GT Cups. And it was Andrzej Lewandowski, you can see, coming through for the Pro-Am, for the AM Cup winner. And breathe. There are your overall race winners. Those Beretta and Schandorf for VSR, then Moulin Nemoto making it a VSR lockout and double domination. But we'll see if that last corner clash with Al-Zubair comes to anything, which made the Lettner Racing team drop down to 3rd in the end, right in that final corner. But he was rather shoved off the road, so we'll see what happens there. Clean, Krapinski 4th, Pecklin and Pepper 5th, Iru Milroy 6th, Sattler Bastian 7th, Moisey Spinelli 8th, Moss Osborne 9th, Jens Renner Muller in 10th, Sean Balfe and Adam Carroll 11th. They'll be gutted with that after starting on pole. Giuseppe Cipriani 12th, Mackenzie Seifert 13th, Andrzej Lewandowski 14th, Guillaume Verdonk is your winner in the Pro-Am Cup class. Darmetko and Janos just behind him, Plazek Lewazowski, Glauco Solieri, Dino Zamparelli, Fernando Fortes, Jakub Dwinicki, Pisani and Bozzoni in that number 44 car, Navarrete, Junior and Senior 23rd, 24th Mauro Os and Arisot. Schulze and Liebhauser had to retire along with Albert Estragues. And that's what it's done to the Drivers' Championship right now. There are 4 drivers tied for the lead. Schandorf, Beretta, Pepper and Pecklin are all on 21 points. And then further back it is Andy Soucek and Al-Faisal Al-Zubair. And then Baptiste Moulin and Yuki Nemoto a further few points back. The 2 Lamborghini drivers, a hug. Very happy with that, I think, the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing team with a 1 and 2 and a great way to mark their comeback in the International GT Open for 2021. Nemoto there looking very happy. He can't wait to get on the podium.
Yeah, Vincenzo Sospiri Racing has had a lot of success in the Championship 4 via the GT Cup Open Europe, but to do it in the top class on Lambo's return is a great performance.
You can see the smiles on his face. I thought he might be a little bit annoyed that he lost the lead in that pit stops, but hey, it's a first podium for him in 2021. Al-Faisal Al-Zubair there came home in 3rd, gave it all his might. Shoved off the road in that last corner, so we'll see if that comes to anything or not, but a really strong run for that Lettner Racing car and a good first weekend for them in the championship as well, alongside Andy Soucek. Christian Klein just missing out on the overall podium, but is the winner in Pro-Am. And there, though, is your winner, Frederick Schandorf. Let's go through that once more. Your top 3. 3rd looked like this, the number 77 car of Al-Zubair and Soucek for Lettner Racing. In 2nd, the Lamborghini Huracan for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. It was Moulin and Nemoto at the wheel. They led for a while, but they couldn't hold it, because it was the Lamborghini of Beretta and Schandorf for the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing team who managed to fight for the win. And we'll hear from them now.
Frederick Schandorf, we start with you. Last stint, Michele, Bien. How was it, this decisive move at the end?
Yeah, it was really nice to be back here in GTOpen. A pleasure to be with you again. It was really cool racing, and I know if we did the undercut in the beginning, I need to push like a maniac in the first 4 laps when I got the new tires on. So Michele did a good job, and the whole team and Lamborghini is really happy for everyone. So really happy to be here.
Good. And Michele, first win in the GTOpen, just arrived and almost winner.
I think it's a good result considering the way we started yesterday. So I think the gap was really big, and this race we had the chance to stay in front. Struggled a little bit on the start, but Frederick did a really great job at the end, and thanks to the teams to the great car, because it was really nice to drive. But now we have to close the gap to the first, and let's see on the race.
Well done, guys.
Grazie.
Podium now.
Grazie.
Bye.
Well, they both seem pretty happy, Elliot. Your winners, Mikel Beretta and Frederick Schandorf for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. Beretta, the 26-year-old from Milan, and Schandorf, the 24-year-old from Denmark. So a young team there. And there is your GT Cup winner for Pro Sport. Rodrigue Gillian in the car at the end, but it starts with Nico Bedon.
Lewandowski back to our weekends, and you are having a great weekend here at Ricard, and now the win in the GT Cup.
Yes, I'm glad that I returned to the GT Cup in GTOpen, yes, again, but no GT3, but GT Cup. But I'm happy that I win, but driving alone is very exhausting for me. I almost collapsed, you know, the competitor is quite strong, but I'm very happy, you know, I concentrate properly 1 hour and I win, you know.
You have done a perfect job. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Race 2 for the 2021 International GT Open looked a little like this. Your pole sitter, the Audi in the middle, could do absolutely nothing to hold on to that lead, as Andy Soucek in the Porsche Letna racing car was able to swoop past him and take the lead going into turn 1 and 2. Nemoto in the green Lamborghini VSR car also able to get up there as we ride it on board with Patrick Kaprinski forced out wide there. We had a spinner in the background in the GT Cup, the 44 Porsche forcing a couple of cars out wide there. They were able to get going, but it was a troubled race for that car, causing some of this action, which meant Andy Soucek lost the lead. A slight collision with second place man Ollie Milroy allowed Nemoto through to take the lead, and he was not happy about that at all with that slower 44 car. Further back in the pack, the Bentley wasn't having a great race compared to where it was yesterday. The Team Lazarus winners were having to fight their way up the field. Nemoto then came into the pit lane, was one of the first. Then we had Christian Klein, who only made it 3 corners in yesterday's race, managing to work his way up to win his category later today. And then Al Faisal Al Zubair took over in that Lechner Racing Porsche and sadly lost the lead to the Lamborghini. And there was Christian Klein making his way up through in that McLaren JP Motorsport car. But it was the number 63 Lamborghini who fought its way to the top of the timing screen and then pulled away to take the win here in France for the Circuit Paul Ricard Race 2 of the International GT Open. And here was your battle for second and third right into the final corner, with Al Faisal Al Zubair just missing out to the Lamborghini in front of him. A wild race here for Race 2 of the International GT Open. Interesting to pick up on Andrzej Lewandowski, too tired to race on his own, or nearly collapsed. And then we have the first podium note to come on here, the overall podium. In third, the Lechner Racing drivers of Al Faisal Al Zubair and Andy Soucek in second. Baptiste Moulin and Yuki Nemoto. But here are your winners for Vincenzo Sospiri Racing. It will be Mikel Beretta and Frederick Schandorf. And there are your winners then. They'll smile with the trophies and then potentially spray a bit of champagne. Frederik Schandorf and Mikel Beretta, your race winners here for race 2 on the International GT Open. But we will return on the 19th and 20th of June at Spa-Francorchamps, where we will have 2 more races for you and lots of GT Cup action. We will get a bit of a spray from Elliot and myself, Harry Benjamin. We look forward to seeing you then. Well, now, welcome back if you're still able to be with us, and we'll go through the rest of the category podiums here for the International GT Open. And here we have our next one up. This will be the Pro-Am podium. So in 3rd place, Nico Bastian and Marcus Sattler. And then in 2nd, we will see Brendan Irie, Benoli Milroy. With a really tough race for them, but they'll be happy to get 2nd in the Pro-Am podium. And the leaders, your winners in Pro-Am, a great recovery for them, Christian Kleen and Patrick Kaprinski for JP Motorsport. Nobody drops their trophies like yesterday, so no damage on the podium this afternoon. Never say never, though. And now the spray of the champagne. Brendan Irie first to get it open. Christian Kleen tasting the champagne. Ollie Milroy as well, off to spray his teammate. They're a great team down there at Exception Racing. They seem they're great racers and they like to have fun while doing it as well. Well, that was your Pro-Am podium.
And someone left their trophies there.
They got so caught up in the action, they prefer the champagne to the trophy.
Yeah.
But it's such a great atmosphere at the International GT Open because, you know, just look at all the drivers there, having a good chat, decompressing from that race. And there weren't really any big incidents, which was nice to see. A couple of the slower drivers potentially could have cleared the way a little bit better than they did. But it's such a condensed field that is quite a tricky thing to do.
Yeah, and with it being the first weekend back as well, you're not used to being lapped, etc. after a winter of purely testing.
And now we get our 3rd podium. So this will be the AM category. So in 3rd, well, actually, in 3rd it will be Florian Schultz and Jens Lieberhauser, who had to sadly end the race early. And then Mackenzie and Safer in 2nd, but it will be Giuseppe Cipriani, who is your AM winner in the International GT Open, saying that he was really struggling to race on his own. But it was still a tight fight for him to come out on top. And that is it, though, for all the action here at the 2021 International GT Open. Do make sure you join us again soon, and we'll see you next time.